The conference hall floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure built by 17 different species as a symbol of peace. Inside, Ambassador Han Junho sat perfectly still while the alien commander spoke. His face showed nothing. No anger. No fear. Just the calm expression of a man who had lived through 6 decades of diplomatic service. Veltheron, the High Commander of the Valtrine Dominion, stood at the center of the chamber. He was tall, with dark purple skin that seemed to absorb light, and 4 arms that gestured dramatically as he spoke. His voice echoed through the translation systems into every language in the galaxy. "The Treaty of Frozen Stars is ended," Veltheron announced. "For 4,000 years, we have allowed humanity to exist in isolation. We watched you spread across your little corner of space. We observed your quaint colonies and peaceful ways. The time of watching is over. Humanity will now join the Dominion, not as equals, but as vassals. You will serve. You will obey. You will be improved." Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species watched in silence. Some looked sympathetic toward the humans. Most looked relieved that the Valtrine had chosen humanity as their next target instead of their own people. The Valtrine Dominion controlled half the galaxy. They had never lost a war. Their fleet could darken the skies of 1,000 worlds. Han Junho finally stood. He was shorter than most beings in the room, dressed in simple gray robes. His hair had gone white years ago. He looked like exactly what he was supposed to be, a peaceful old man who had spent his life avoiding conflict. "May I have 72 hours to consult with my government?" he asked. His voice was quiet, polite. Veltheron laughed. The sound was like metal scraping stone. 72 hours? To discuss your surrender? Very well, little human. We grant you this mercy. Use your time wisely. Prepare your people for their new future. Han Junho bowed slightly. "Thank you for your patience, High Commander." As the human delegation left the chamber, Captain Park Minji walked beside the ambassador. She commanded the escort ship that had brought them here. A small vessel called the Eternal Dawn. She was in her 40s. With sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who had spent 20 years in the diplomatic fleet. She had never fired a weapon in combat. None of her crew had. There had been no wars for 4,000 years. They walked through the corridors of the station in silence. Around them, other diplomats whispered and stared. The humans were doomed. Everyone knew it. The Valtrine had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. What chance did a species of peaceful colonists have? In the docking bay, Minji noticed something strange. Her crew was preparing the ship for departure, but they were smiling. Not nervous smiles. Not the forced cheerfulness of people trying to stay brave. These were cold smiles. Predatory smiles. The kind of expression that made her stomach feel tight. Lieutenant Choi Woo-bin caught her looking. He was young, barely 30, had worked on the Eternal Dawn for 5 years. She had watched him read poetry during his off hours. She had attended his wedding. She knew him, but the smile on his face was the smile of a stranger. "Captain," he said softly, "it's good to finally go home." She did not understand what he meant. The Eternal Dawn was their home. But before she could ask, Ambassador Han Junho was calling her to the command deck. The journey back to human space took 6 hours. The Eternal Dawn was fast for a diplomatic vessel, but not a warship. During those 6 hours, Han Junho sat in his private chamber and did not emerge. Minji tried to focus on her duties, but she could not stop thinking about her crew's expressions. About the way they moved with a purpose she had never seen before when they entered human space. Han Junho finally called her to his chamber. Inside, she found him standing before a communication terminal. The screen was black, showing nothing. "Captain Park Minji," he said without turning. "How long have you served in the diplomatic fleet?" 22 years, Ambassador." "And in those 22 years, have you ever wondered why humanity has been so peaceful?" She hesitated. "We learned from our past, sir. Before the treaty, we were violent. We fought wars. We hurt each other. The treaty gave us a chance to be better." Han Junho finally turned to face her. His expression had changed. The gentle old diplomat was gone. The man looking at her now had eyes like winter ice. "That is what we taught you to believe," he said. "That is what we taught everyone to believe. Even ourselves after a while. But the truth is different, Captain. We did not become peaceful because we learned. We became peaceful because we had to." He touched the terminal. The screen came to life, but not with a normal communication channel. Instead, it showed a symbol she had never seen before. A circle with 7 points, each point a different weapon. Sword, flame, lightning, plague, void, mind, evolution. "What is that?" she whispered. "The seal of the Terran Defense Council," Han Jun-ho said. "The real government of humanity. The one that has existed in secret for 4,000 years, maintaining the peace, ensuring the treaty was never broken. Until now." The screen changed. A face appeared. The person looked old, impossibly old, with eyes that seemed to have seen galaxies die. Minji could not tell if they were male or female. They looked beyond such simple categories. "Ambassador Han," the ancient face said. "The Voltrine have declared war." "Yes, Director." "Then the question is simple. Do we activate the sleepers?" Minji felt the temperature in the room drop. "Who are the sleepers?" she asked, though part of her did not want to know. Han Jun-ho looked at her with something like pity. "The sleepers are the reason the treaty exists, Captain. 4,000 years ago, humanity was not losing a war with the Voltrine. We were winning. We were winning so completely, so terribly, that the Voltrine Empire begged us to stop. They offered us half the galaxy if we would just cease what we were doing. We agreed, but on one condition. We would become peaceful. We would forget what we were capable of. We would hide our weapons, our soldiers, our true nature. We would sleep. And in return, they would never bother us again." On the screen, the ancient face waited. 4,000 years is a long time," Han Jun-ho continued. "Long enough that even we started to believe our own story. Long enough that most humans truly became peaceful. But not all of us. Some of us remembered. Some of us kept watch. And some of us have been waiting for this exact moment." He turned back to the screen. "Director Choi Dae-yun, I recommend full activation. All sleepers. All systems. All protocols." The ancient face smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Approved," Director Choi said. "Wake them up. It is time the galaxy remembered why they feared humanity." The screen went dark. Min-ji stood in silence, her mind trying to process what she had heard. Finally, she found her voice. "What were we? What did we do that scared them so badly?" Han Jun-ho walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "We evolved, Captain. Not slowly, over millions of years, quickly, violently, we changed ourselves to win. We became something that should not exist. And when we won, when we saw what we had become, we chose to sleep. We chose to be human again, while we still could." He turned back to her. "In 72 hours, the Voltrine will receive our answer. They expect surrender. They expect tears and pleading. Instead, they will receive something much worse. They will receive the truth." Far across human space, on thousands of worlds, in millions of homes, people were receiving messages. A farmer on a colony world stopped his work and looked at the sky. A teacher on a space station paused in the middle of her lesson. An artist on a distant moon set down his brush. Each of them felt something stirring in their minds. Memories that were not memories. Skills that should not exist. Knowledge of weapons and wars that had not happened in their lifetime. The sleepers were waking up, and the galaxy was about to remember why it should have left humanity alone. Kim Hyun-woo had been a farmer for 800 years. He grew rice in the traditional way by hand in the flooded fields of Terra Nova Colony. His neighbors knew him as a quiet man who kept to himself. Children sometimes asked him for stories, and he would tell them simple tales about growing food and respecting the earth. He seemed to have no other life, no other purpose. When the message came, he was standing knee-deep in water, checking his plants. The message was not in words. It was a frequency, a pattern of light that touched his eyes and traveled into his brain. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a dam breaking, the memories flooded back. He remembered commanding 7,000 soldiers. He remembered ships that could fold space itself into weapons. He remembered the day he destroyed the star system called Kelveron, collapsing its sun into a black hole to stop a Vultrine fleet. He remembered the screams across the quantum channels as millions died. He remembered not feeling anything at all. His hands began to shake. The rice plant he was holding fell into the water. Kim Hyun-woo stood very still, trying to understand what he was. A farmer, a soldier, both, neither. A voice spoke in his mind. It was Director Choi Dae-yeon, the keeper, the one human who had never slept. Commander Kim, we need you again. I am not a commander anymore, Hyun-woo said aloud, though there was no one nearby to hear. I gave that up. I chose to forget. The choice is being taken from all of us, the keeper replied. The Vultrine have ended the treaty. They are coming. If we do not wake up, humanity will be enslaved. Everything we sacrificed will be for nothing. Hyun-woo closed his eyes. How many? All of you. Every sleeper across human space. We are bringing you to the Crucible. I thought the Crucible was destroyed. We told everyone it was destroyed. It has been waiting, just like you. Hyun-woo looked at his fields. 800 years of peace. 800 years of trying to be something other than a weapon. He had almost succeeded in believing he was just a farmer. I understand, he said. I will come. Across human space, similar scenes played out. On Europa Station, Lee Sora was teaching mathematics to a class of 15 children. She was explaining basic algebra when the message reached her. She stopped mid-sentence. The children stared at her, confused. Her eyes had changed. They seemed to glow from within. She remembered being the most powerful psyker in human history. She could reach into minds across vast distances. She could make entire crews believe they were somewhere they were not. During the war, she had made a Vultrine admiral believe his fleet was safely in orbit when they were actually flying into a star. 300 ships burned because of her lie. She had volunteered to forget. The power to control minds was too dangerous. She had lived 2,000 years as a simple teacher, trying to make up for what she had done. Now the power was coming back. She could feel her students' thoughts, bright and innocent and trusting. She could shape those thoughts like clay. The temptation was overwhelming. Class dismissed, she said quietly. The children gathered their things and left, sensing something wrong. When they were gone, she sat at her desk and cried. Not from sadness, from rage at being forced to remember. I know what you are feeling, the keeper's voice said in her mind. I am sorry. Sorry does not help, she replied. I was free. I was finally free. None of us are free while the threat exists. Come to the Crucible. We need your strength. My strength destroyed people. I do not want it back. Neither does Commander Kim, neither does Master Bay, neither do any of the sleepers. But the Vultrine do not care what we want. Sora wiped her eyes. Will we have to use the old methods? I do not know. I hope not. But we must be ready. On the outer rim, Bei Jinyang set down his paintbrush. He had been working on a landscape, trying to capture the way light fell through alien trees. He was known across 3 systems as a talented artist. No one knew he had once created weapons that could think, evolve, and hunt. The memories hit him harder than the others. He had been the master of biological warfare. He had designed plagues that rewrote DNA. He had created viruses that could learn from their hosts and adapt faster than any defense. His weapons had not just killed. They had transformed, mutated, turned victims into carriers who spread the death further. He had been very good at his job. That was why he had volunteered to forget. Of all the sleepers, his skills were the most horrifying. No, he said when the keeper's message reached him. I will not do this again. I cannot, Master Bay. We may have no choice. There is always a choice. I chose to forget. I chose to create beauty instead of death. I will not go back. If you do not, millions will die. The Vultrine will not show mercy. Then millions will die without my help. I am done being a monster. There was a long silence. Then the keeper spoke again, and his voice was sad. I understand. But please come to the crucible anyway. Even if you do not fight, we need your knowledge. We need to know what weapons exist, so we can defend against them if the Voltrine have developed similar tools. Jinyang hesitated. That was different. Knowledge was not the same as action. Very well. But I will not create. I will not build. I will only advise. That is all I ask. The youngest sleeper was Yun Sungyun. He had only been retired for 800 years, which made him a child by sleeper standards. He ran a small cafe on Mars, serving coffee and pastries to miners and engineers. People liked him. He was friendly, always smiling, always ready with a joke. When the memories returned, he laughed. Not from joy, from relief. He had been pretending for so long that he had started to forget who he really was. The cafe, the smiles, the normal life, it had all felt like wearing clothes that did not fit. He had been a strategist during the war. Not the kind who moved armies on maps. The kind who understood how civilizations worked, how to break them from within, how to make enemies destroy themselves. He was 18 years old when the war ended. He had personally caused the collapse of 4 alien governments. Finally, he said aloud. His hands were steady. Unlike the others, he did not mourn what he had been. He had been very good at it, and part of him missed it. Eager, Yun Sungyun? The keeper asked. Realistic, Director. We all knew this day might come. I am ready. The others are not so certain. The others are old. They have had time to fall in love with being civilians. I remember what I am. A weapon. The only question is what we are aimed at. Come to the crucible. We will discuss targets soon enough. Over the next 48 hours, the sleepers traveled from across human space to a hidden facility built inside a hollowed moon. No record showed this moon existing. It was hidden by technology that bent light and gravity, making sensors slide past it like water around a stone. Inside, the crucible was exactly as they remembered. Training rooms, strategy centers, weapons laboratories, medical facilities designed to enhance and modify human bodies. Everything needed to wage the kind of war that should never be waged again. Director Choi Dae-yun met them in the central hall. He looked ancient because he was. 4,000 years of never sleeping, never forgetting, always watching. His body was sustained by technology that should not exist, machines that kept him alive long past any natural span. Thank you for coming, he said. His voice was thin like paper tearing. I know this is difficult. Difficult, Lee Sora repeated. That is a kind word for it. Do we have a choice? Kim Hyun-woo asked. He looked older than he had 2 days ago. The weight of memory had added years to his face. There is always a choice, Dae-yun replied. But the consequences of choosing peace are severe. The Voltrine have a fleet of 10,000 warships moving toward our space. They expect easy conquest. They have studied our 4,000 years of pacifism. They believe we are weak. We are weak, Bei Jinyang said bitterly. Our military is ceremonial. Our ships are transports. Our people have forgotten how to fight. Our people have forgotten, Dae-yun agreed. But you have not. And across human space, our defenses are not what they seem. We have been preparing. The colonies that look civilian are weapons platforms. The transport ships have hidden weapons. The peaceful farmers and teachers and artists all have military training buried in their genes, waiting to activate. Genetic triggers? Sora asked sharply. That is forbiddance. Many things are forbiddance. We did them anyway. 4,000 years ago, when we agreed to sleep, we also agreed to prepare. Every human born in the last 4 millennia carries dormant combat programming. It does not activate unless needed. Most people live and die without ever knowing it exists. Yun Sungyun smiled his cold smile. So the entire human race is an army that does not know it is an army. Elegant. Horrifying, Kim Hyun-woo corrected. We turned our own people into weapons without their knowledge or consent. To protect them, Daeyeon said. If the Veltrine had known the truth, they might have struck first. By appearing weak, we were safe. Now that safety is gone, lead them. When the genetic triggers activate, our people will have skills but not experience. They will need guidance. They will need examples. They will need you. And if we refuse? Sora asked. Then humanity loses and you get to watch everyone you tried to protect die or be enslaved. The Veltrine do not negotiate. They dominate. Jineo shook his head. This is wrong. All of it. We should have stayed asleep. We should have let ourselves be truly human. New Bizin was a beautiful world. It had oceans the color of jade and mountains that touched the clouds. 40 million humans called it home. They grew food, built cities, raised children, and lived peaceful lives. The cities gleamed in the sunlight, full of gardens and art and laughter. To anyone watching, it looked like paradise. Governor Nam Ji-yoon walked through the capital city's central plaza, greeting citizens. She was in her 50s, with gray streaks in her black hair and a kind smile. Children ran past her, playing. Street vendors sold food. Musicians performed on corners. It was an ordinary day on an ordinary colony world. The message from the Keeper reached her through a secure channel. The Veltrine fleet would arrive in 6 hours. She was to prepare for combat. She acknowledged the message and continued walking, her smile never fading. She had been governor for 30 years. Before that, she had been someone else entirely. In orbit above New Bizin, Commander Oh Tae-jun stood on the bridge of the defense station. His fleet consisted of 12 ships. They were small vessels, barely armed, designed for patrol duty and emergency response. He had commanded them for 15 years without firing a single shot in anger. His crew was professional but inexperienced. Most of them had joined the service because it was stable work, not because they wanted to fight. When the alert came through, Tae-jun called his senior officers together. The Veltrine are coming. 500 warships. They expect us to surrender? His tactical officer, a young woman named Park Hae-jin, looked pale. Sir, we cannot fight 500 ships. We should evacuate the planet. Tae-jun studied her face. She did not know. Most of his crew did not know. They believed what everyone believed, that humanity was peaceful, that their military was ceremonial, that they stood no chance against a real threat. We are not evacuating, he said quietly. We are going to fight. That is suicide, sir. Perhaps. Or perhaps things are not what they seem. He touched a control on his console. Activate combat protocols. Authorization, Tae-jun 7 Red Dawn. The ship's computer acknowledged. Throughout the fleet, systems that had been dormant for generations came online. Weapons that should not exist extended from hidden compartments. Power cores that had been running at 1% capacity surged to full strength. The 12 small patrol ships began to change. Transforming into something altogether different, Park Hae-jin stared at her tactical display in shock. Sir, what is happening? Our ships, they are not what I thought they were. No, Tae-jun agreed. They are not. And neither are we. He sent a message to his crew across all 12 ships. Attention all personnel. This is Commander Oh Tae-jun. For those of you who do not know, you are about to discover something about yourselves. You have combat training. It is buried in your genes, waiting to be activated. In approximately 1 minute, you will remember things you never learned. Skills you never practice. Do not be afraid. You have always been soldiers. You simply did not know it. The genetic triggers activated across the fleet. 3,000 crew members suddenly remembered how to fight. Weapons officers who had never fired a shot now understood complex targeting systems. Engineers who had maintained civilian systems now knew how to optimize military hardware. Pilots who had flown peaceful routes now recalled combat maneuvers that defied physics. Park Hae-jin gasped as the memories flooded into her mind. She was still herself, still the young officer who had joined the service to see the stars. But she was also something more, something dangerous. I understand now, she whispered. We have been hiding. Yes, Taejun confirmed. The entire human race has been hiding. Today we stop. The Veltrine fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 500 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the new Bizon system. They were massive vessels, each one large enough to carry thousands of soldiers. Their weapons could burn continents. Their shields could withstand nuclear strikes. Admiral Rakthan commanded the fleet from his flagship. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns. He had conquered 15 species. Humanity would be his 16th victory, and he expected it to be quick. His intelligence reports indicated that New Bizon had minimal defenses. 12 patrol ships. No planetary shields. No orbital weapons platforms. Open a channel to the planet, he ordered. Governor Nam Ji-yoon's face appeared on his screen. She looked calm, almost serene. Rakthan felt a moment of respect for her composure. I am Admiral Rakthan of the Veltrine Dominion. You have one opportunity to surrender. Disable your defenses and prepare for occupation. If you comply, your people will be spared. Nam Ji-yoon smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Admiral, you should have kept the truce. Rakthan frowned. What do you mean? You will understand soon. The channel closed. The Admiral felt uneasy, but he dismissed it. She was putting on a brave face. It meant nothing. All ships, advance. Destroy any resistance. Begin orbital bombardment if they do not surrender within 10 minutes. The Veltrine fleet moved forward. Commander Oh Taejun watched them approach on his tactical display. 12 ships against 500. It should have been hopeless. All ships, he broadcast to his fleet. Weapons free. Show them what we are. The 12 human ships accelerated. They moved in ways that violated Rakthan's understanding of physics. They did not travel in straight lines. They seemed to fold space around them, appearing and disappearing, making impossible turns at speeds that should have torn them apart. The first Veltrine ship exploded before Rakthan even understood what had happened. One of the human patrol ships had appeared directly above it, fired a weapon that seemed to compress space itself, and vanished again before the Veltrine could return fire. What was that? Rakthan demanded. His tactical officer checked his sensors. Sir, I do not know. The human ships are using technology we have never seen. They are moving through dimensions we cannot track. Another Veltrine ship exploded. Then another. The human ships were everywhere and nowhere, striking with precision and then vanishing. Each shot destroyed its target completely. No shields could stop them. No weapons could hit them. All ships, full defensive formation. Rakthan ordered. Concentrate fire on any human vessel that appears. The Veltrine fleet tried to coordinate, tried to form a defense. It did not matter. The 12 human ships moved through them like knives through paper. They did not just attack. They danced. They performed maneuvers that seemed impossible, making the laws of physics bend to their will inside one of the human ships. Park Hae-jin worked her tactical station with hands that moved faster than thought. She was not thinking anymore. She was simply doing, letting the buried knowledge guide her. She targeted enemy ships with weapons that could manipulate gravity itself, creating tiny black holes that lasted for microseconds but were enough to tear through any armor around her. The crew worked in perfect synchronization. They had trained for this moment without knowing it. Every simulation they had run as a peaceful patrol fleet had actually been combat training, disguised. Every system they had maintained had been a weapons system in hiding. 20 minutes into the battle, the Veltrine had lost 200 ships. Not a single human vessel had been touched. The remaining Veltrine ships tried to flee. The human ships let them go. They had made their point. But as the Veltrine fleet pulled back, their sensors detected something that made Rakthan's blood run cold. New Bizon itself was not what it seemed. The cities were not cities. They were targeting arrays. The mountains were not mountains. They were massive weapons platforms, hidden beneath camouflage that had fooled sensors for decades. The farms that covered the valleys were not growing food. They were growing antimatter using biological processes that should not be possible. The entire planet was a weapon disguised as a paradise, and the 40 million civilians were not civilians. As the genetic triggers activated across the population, they remembered their training. Teachers became soldiers. Farmers became engineers. Artists became strategists. Every single human on New Bisen had been waiting, living normal lives while carrying the capacity for war in their very DNA. How is this possible? Rakthan whispered. We studied them for 4,000 years. We watched them. They were peaceful. His intelligence officer pulled up ancient records, files that had been sealed for millennia. Sir, I found something. Old reports from the first contact with humanity, before the treaty. The reports were classified. I am reading them now. What do they say? The officer's voice shook. They say we lost. During the first war we lost. Humanity was destroying us. We begged for peace. The treaty was our idea, not theirs. Rakthan felt ice in his chest. Why was this hidden? Because admitting we lost would have weakened the Dominion. So our leaders changed the story. They said we granted humanity peace as a mercy. They buried the truth. But sir, if humanity was that powerful 4,000 years ago, and they have been hiding their strength all this time, he did not need to finish. Rakthan understood. They had not attacked a weak species. They had attacked something far worse. They had attacked a sleeping predator. A transmission came through from the planet. Governor Nam Ji-yoon's face appeared again. Behind her, the false city was transforming, revealing its true nature. Weapons arrays rose from the ground. Energy shields flickered into existence. The entire planet became a fortress in minutes. 3 weeks passed. The Voltrin Dominion had lost 40% of its military forces. High Commander Veltharan sat in his command chamber, staring at reports that should not be possible. Every attack on human space had failed. Not just failed, been destroyed with surgical precision. What terrified him most was not the losses. It was how humans fought. They did not simply win battles. They studied their enemies during combat, adapted in real time, and then used those adaptations against them. A weapon that worked once never worked twice. A tactic that succeeded in one system would fail in the next. Because humans had already learned from it and developed a counter, they were evolving. In the middle of a war. In real time, Fleet Admiral Kongman Seo commanded the Terran Navy from her flagship, the Indomitable. She was 45 years old and had never fired a shot in combat before the war began. 3 weeks ago, she had been a logistics coordinator, managing supply routes between colonies. When the genetic triggers activated, she discovered she was also a brilliant military strategist. It had been disorienting, learning she was two people at once. The peaceful administrator who had spent 20 years managing cargo shipments, and the warrior who understood fleet tactics and strategic warfare on an instinctive level. She was still trying to reconcile these two parts of herself on her bridge. Young officers worked with the same strange combination of experience and inexperience. They knew what to do, but they were still processing the knowledge. It was like discovering you could speak a language you had never learned. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we are detecting another Valtrine probe fleet. 20 ships, edge of the Helios system. Do not engage, Minseo ordered. Shadow them. I want to know where they are going and what they are looking for. This was the strategy the sleepers had taught them. Do not destroy everything that moves. Learn, adapt, use the enemy's actions against them. Every Voltrine ship they let escape carried information back to Veltharan, information humans wanted them to have. False weaknesses. Misleading patterns. Strategic deception. At the Prometheus Division Research Facility, Chief Scientist Shin Yuna worked in a laboratory that had been hidden beneath a civilian university. The university had been real, students had really studied there, professors had really taught. But 5 floors below the physics department, weapons research had continued for 4,000 years. Yuna was 32 years old. Before the war, she had been a biologist studying alien plant life. Now she found herself developing weapons that scared her. The genetic knowledge gave her the ability. The war gave her the motivation. But her conscience gave her doubt. She stood before a containment field, looking at her latest creation. It was beautiful and horrible. A virus engineered to target Valtrine biology specifically. It would not kill them. Instead, it would rewrite their nervous systems, making them incapable of aggression. They would become passive, docile, unable to fight. It would end the war in days. It would also rob an entire species of their free will. "Dr. Shin," a voice said behind her. She turned to see Beijing, the ancient sleeper who had once been the master of biological warfare. He looked at her creation with eyes that had seen too much. "You made this very efficiently," he said. "Better than I would have, I think. You have a gift for this work." "I do not want this gift," Yuna replied. "I want to study plants. I want to help things grow, not destroy them. Yet here you are destroying, because people I care about will die if I do not." Jinyang nodded slowly. "That was always the justification. Save our people by hurting theirs? It sounded so simple, so moral. Do you know how many species I made extinct with that justification?" Yuna looked at him. "How many?" "4, completely extinct." "Not just their militaries?" "Every single member of their species. My weapons did not stop when the war ended. They kept evolving, kept spreading, until there was nothing left. I did not intend that. But intent does not matter when the result is genocide." He gestured to her containment field. "This weapon you have made. You think it is merciful because it does not kill, but you would be taking away what makes them who they are? Is that not a form of death?" "They are trying to enslave us," Yuna said, but her voice wavered. "Yes, they are. And we have choices about how to respond. Some choices make us winners. Some choices make us monsters. The tragedy is that sometimes they are the same choice." Across human space, similar conversations were happening. In the Psychological Warfare Division, Director Wang Zhewan was broadcasting messages into Valtrine space. Not threats. Not propaganda. Simply truth. Videos of what humanity had done during the First War. Records of weapons used. Battles fought. Civilizations destroyed. The Valtrine people watched in horror. Their government had lied to them. The treaty had not been mercy granted to a weaker species. It had been surrender forced by a stronger one. Humans had chosen to become peaceful. They could choose to be something else. The broadcasts had an effect. Across the Valtrine Dominion, subject species began to question their masters. If humans had forced the Valtrine to sue for peace, what did that mean for everyone else under Valtrine rule? Protests erupted. Rebellions began. The Dominion started to fracture from within. High Commander Veltharan watched his empire crumbling and felt rage. Not at the rebels. At himself. At his leaders who had hidden the truth. At the arrogance that had led them to break a treaty they should have worshipped. In the Terran Defense Council chambers, Ambassador Han Junho met with civilian leaders. Park Sun-hee, an ethics counselor, slammed her hand on the table. She was young, only 28, and she had not yet activated any genetic triggers. She was purely civilian, purely human in the old sense. "We are becoming them," she said. "We are becoming the thing we fought against. We have weapons that can destroy solar systems. We have viruses that can rewrite minds. We are broadcasting fear as a strategy. How are we different from the Valtrine?" Admiral Kangman Seo met her eyes. "We are different because we question, because we debate, because we have people like you in this room asking us to consider our choices. The Valtrine do not have that. They only have obedience. Is that enough?" Sun-hee demanded. "If we win by becoming monsters, do we deserve to win? If we lose by staying pure, there will be no one left to judge us," Director Choi Dae-yeon said quietly. "I have asked myself these questions for 4,000 years, Counselor Park. There are no good answers. Only necessary ones." "I reject that," Sun-hee said. "There must be another way." At the Crucible, the sleepers gathered to discuss strategy. Kim Hyun-woo had been reviewing battle reports. Human forces were winning everywhere. Not just winning, dominating. The Voltrine were in full retreat. "We are pushing too hard," he said. "If we crush them completely, we will create a power vacuum in half the galaxy. Other species will fight to fill that vacuum. We will have peace with the Voltrine and chaos everywhere else." Lee Sora agreed. "We need to win, but not too much. We need to break their ability to threaten us without breaking their ability to maintain order in their own territory." Yoon Sung-yen laughed. "Strategic mercy. How very human of us. The Voltrine would not show us the same consideration." "We are not the Voltrine," Kim Hyun-woo said firmly. "That is the entire point. If we act like them, we prove they were right to fear us." Bei Jingyan spoke for the first time in days. "I have been talking with the new scientists. They have made weapons I never imagined. Weapons that could end this war immediately. Dr. Shin has a virus that would neutralize the Voltrine threat permanently. Should we not use every tool available?" "No," Kim Hyun-woo said. "We should not. Using that virus would make us worse than the Voltrine. They want to enslave. We would be destroying their very nature. That is not victory. That is atrocity, even if it saves human lives. Even then, some prices are too high to pay." Yoon Sung-yen shook his head. "You are old, Commander Kim. You have had time to develop a conscience. I am young enough to remember that war is about winning, not about feeling good about how you win." Director Choi Dae-yeon listened to the debate. He had seen this same argument play out 4,000 years ago. The young warriors who wanted to use every weapon. The old warriors who understood the cost. It always came down to the same question: what are we willing to become to survive? In his private chamber, High Commander Velthoran made a decision. He could not win this war. Every strategy failed. Every weapon was countered. The humans were not just stronger, they were smarter, faster, more adaptable. They were everything the Voltrine had once claimed to be. He opened a secure channel. It took time to connect, bypassing diplomatic protocols, going directly to Ambassador Han Junho. When the human's face appeared, Velthoran saw no triumph. Only weariness. "Ambassador," Velthoran said, "I am contacting you without my government's authorization. I am likely committing treason by doing this." "Then why do it?" Han Junho asked. "Because I have reviewed the old records. The true records. I know what happened 4,000 years ago. I know we started that war and lost it. I know we begged you for peace and you granted it. I know we have broken that peace through arrogance and ignorance." "Yes," Han Junho said simply. "All of that is true. What do you want?" "Name your terms. I will argue for them before my government." 6 months had passed since the Voltrine declared war. The conflict that was supposed to be a quick conquest had become a slow collapse. The Voltrine Dominion was not destroyed, it was systematically dismantled. Human forces did not invade worlds. They isolated them. They cut supply lines with precision. They left Voltrine fleets stranded in space, forced to watch as their empire crumbled around them. Admiral Kong Minseo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. Before her, spread across a volume of space that would take light weeks to cross, was the assembled might of the Terran Navy, 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. Each one a masterpiece of technology that should not exist. Behind those 5,000 ships, hidden in dimensional folds, were another 10,000. And behind those weapons platforms that could crack stars, humanity had revealed only a fraction of its true strength. The rest remained in shadow, a promise of worse things if needed. They floated at the edge of Voltrine Prime's system. The homeworld of the Dominion sat before them, blue and green and beautiful. 2 billion Voltrine lived there. Cities covered the continents. Orbital stations ringed the world. It was the heart of an empire that had ruled half the galaxy for 10,000 years. "All ships reporting ready, Admiral," her tactical officer said. Lieutenant Park Hae-jin had grown during these months. She was no longer the scared young woman who had discovered she was a soldier. She had accepted both parts of herself, the peaceful crew member and the deadly warrior. "Hold position," Minseo ordered. "We are not attacking. We are demonstrating." Captain Park Minji commanded a destroyer in the fleet. She watched the Veltrine homeworld on her screen and thought about how easy it would be. One command. One moment. The world could burn. But that was not the plan. The plan was something much harder. The plan was restraint on Veltrine Prime. High Commander Veltharan stood in the command center of the planetary defense system. Around him, military leaders argued. Some wanted to fight. They saw the human fleet and called for a final battle, a glorious last stand. Others understood the truth. This was not a battle they could win. This was not even a battle humanity wanted to fight. "If we attack," Veltharan said, cutting through the arguments, "we die. All of us, our world, our people, our history. The humans have made this very clear. They could destroy us. They choose not to. The question is whether we are wise enough to accept that mercy." "It is not mercy," one general spat. "It is humiliation. They sit at our doorstep and mock us." "They sit at our doorstep and wait," Veltharan corrected. "There is a difference. They are giving us a choice. Surrender and survive, or fight and die. Surrender is death without honor." "Death is death," Veltharan said quietly. "Honor is a luxury for those who can afford it." "We cannot." The debate raged for hours. While they argued, Ambassador Han Junho made a broadcast. It was not transmitted just to the Veltrine government. It went to every communication system in the Dominion. Every screen. Every radio. Every datapad. 2 billion Veltrine on the homeworld received the message. Billions more across their empire heard the same words. Han Junho's face appeared. He looked tired but calm. "People of the Veltrine Dominion. My name is Han Junho. I speak for humanity. 6 months ago, your leaders declared war on us. They believed we were weak. They believed 4,000 years of peace meant we had forgotten how to fight. They were wrong." Images appeared beside him. Battle footage. Human ships destroying Veltrine fleets. Colony worlds revealing their true nature. Strategic demonstrations of power that made it clear humanity had been holding back for millennia. "Your leaders lied to you," Han Junho continued. "They told you the first war ended with Veltrine mercy. The truth is, your ancestors begged us for peace. We granted it on one condition: that you leave us alone. Your leaders broke that treaty. They forced us to remember what we are capable of. More images. Weapons that bent space. Viruses that could rewrite biology. Ships that moved through dimensions. Technology that seemed like magic. We could destroy you," Han Junho said. "We could burn your worlds. We could break your empire into dust. We choose not to. Not because we are weak, not because we are merciful, but because destroying you would make us what we have tried very hard not to be. We would become the monsters that your ancestors feared 4,000 years ago." He paused. "Instead, we offer you the same thing we offered before: peace. Withdraw from our space. End your campaigns of conquest. Free the species you have enslaved. Do these things and we will leave you alone. Refuse and we will show you what happens when we stop choosing restraint." The broadcast ended on Veltrine Prime. The people watched in silence. Many felt anger. Many felt shame. Some felt relief. The empire had been built on conquest and domination. They had been told it was their destiny to rule. Now they learned it was a lie. They were not supreme. They were merely old dot in the government chambers. Veltharan made his final argument. "We have lost. Not just the war. We have lost the moral authority to lead. We told our people they were superior. We told them it was their right to conquer. Now they know the truth. If we do not accept the human terms, we will not just lose our empire. We will lose our legitimacy. Our own people will tear us down. So we surrender," another commander said bitterly. "We accept defeat." "We accept reality," Veltharan corrected. Sometimes that is the same thing. The decision was made. The Vultrine government transmitted their acceptance. They would withdraw. They would free their subject species. They would agree to a new treaty. 10,000 years of peace. Not a peace enforced by Vultrine power. A peace enforced by human restraint. On the indomitable Admiral Minseo received the message. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling something inside her unclench. It was over. The war was over. They had won without becoming what they feared. All ships, she broadcast to the fleet. Stand down combat status. Begin withdrawal to human space. The war is over. Across human space the news spread. People celebrated. Not with the wild joy of conquerors, but with the quiet relief of survivors. They had fought. They had won. And they had stopped before going too far. At the crucible, the sleepers gathered one last time. Kim Hyun-woo, Lee Sora, Bae Jin-young, and Yoon Sung-yeon stood with director Choi Dae-yeon watching the news broadcasts. They had guided the war. They had taught the new generation how to fight. Now they faced a choice. Do we return to sleep? Sora asked, Can we? Jin-young replied, Now that we remember, can we truly forget again? Kim Hyun-woo shook his head. I do not think we should. The genetic triggers cannot be undone. Millions of humans now know what they are capable of. They will need guidance. They will need examples of how to live with this knowledge. You want us to stay awake? Yoon Sung-yeon asked. I want us to serve differently than before. I will return to military service, but not to fight. To teach, to help others understand restraint. To show them that knowing how to kill does not mean they must. Sora nodded slowly. I will return to teaching children, but I will keep my memories this time. I will teach them that power without wisdom is destruction. That the strongest choice is often the choice not to act. Jin-young smiled sadly. I will become a scientist again. Real science, not weapons. I will use what I know to heal instead of harm. Perhaps I can spend the rest of my life creating as much as I once destroyed. They looked at Yoon Sung-yeon. He was the youngest, the one who had embraced the war most eagerly. He stood silent for a long moment, then spoke. I will write it down. All of it, what we did. What we were. What we became. So that in another 4,000 years, if this happens again, people will know. They will know that winning is not enough. They must also remember why they fought and what they fought to protect. Director Choi Dae-yeon smiled. It was the first genuine smile in 4,000 years. Then you have all learned what took me millennia to understand. We are defined not by our capacity for violence, but by our choice to restrain it. That is what makes us human. Across the galaxy, the Vultrine Dominion began its transformation. The subject species were freed. New governments formed. The empire did not collapse, it evolved, becoming something less like a tyranny and more like a federation. It would take generations to complete the change, but it began. Other species watched humanity with new eyes. Fear, yes, but also respect and curiosity. If humanity could be so powerful and yet choose peace, what did that mean for everyone else? Could strength and restraint coexist? The humans seemed to think so. Ethics counselor Park Sun-hee stood before the Terran Defense Council. She was older now, though only by months. The war had aged everyone who lived through it. We proved we can be monsters, she said. Now we must prove every day that we choose not to be. That is the only victory that matters. Ambassador Han Jun-ho met with the new Vultrine representatives to negotiate the details of the treaty. It was slow work. There was anger on both sides, resentment, but there was also determination. Both species had seen where the alternative led. A young Vultrine diplomat named Karshan asked him, How do you forgive your enemies? Han Jun-ho considered. We do not forgive. We move forward. Forgiveness is for equals. You are not our equals yet. But you could be. In time. If you choose to become something better than what you were,